You know that feeling when you're trying to code and it just feels like you're fighting with this super rigid, totally unforgiving foreign language? Well, what if I told you that whole idea is getting flipped on its head? We're talking about a massive revolution in how we actually create software, moving away from all those complex commands to something way more intuitive, just simple human intent.
And really, this whole thing kicked off with a killer observation from AI researcher Andrej Karpathy back in 2023. His idea was simple, but it was profound. What if we could just tell computers what to do in plain English? And that one thought, that was the spark. That's what lit the fuse for this entire movement in software. And the speed here, it's just been insane. Think about it. In just 2 years, this thing went from a researcher's insight, basically, to being named the Collins English Dictionary Word of the Year. The Word of the Year. That's when you know, okay, this isn't some niche tech trend anymore. This is a full-blown cultural phenomenon. All right, so let's get into it. What is vibe coding? How does this whole shift from syntax to intent actually play out?
So here's the deal. At its core, vibe coding is all about you guiding an AI assistant. Your job completely changes. You're not painstakingly writing every single line of code anymore. Nope, you're more like a mission controller or maybe an artistic director. You're focused on the big picture, the goal, the aesthetic, the vibe. You let the AI get its hands dirty with all the complex, nitty-gritty details. And the philosophy behind this is something called material disengagement. Now, that sounds a bit academic, but the idea is actually super simple. Code isn't this permanent, perfectly crafted statue anymore. Instead, think of it as flexible, almost throwaway clay. And what does that do? It gives you incredible speed. We're talking about building and testing ideas in a matter of hours, not weeks or months. So what does this look like day to day? Well, it's basically a simple back and forth conversation, a feedback loop. You just describe what you want in English. Something like, hey, build me a login form, but make it look minimalist. The AI spits out the code. You check it out, you test it, and then you just keep refining it. Okay, now make that button blue. Actually, let's add some password validation. You just keep going until it's exactly what you pictured in your head. Of course, a revolution like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. You need tools. And boy, has an entire ecosystem just exploded onto the scene to make vibe coding a real thing for millions of people. And this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. You've got tools for everyone. For the seasoned pros, you have these super-powered AI-native environments like Cursor. For beginners or founders trying to get an idea off the ground fast, there's Replit, perfect for just getting something online, like right now. And then you've got these incredible tools like TaskAgenesis. They're empowering a whole new group of people we call citizen developers. Folks who aren't traditional coders but can now build some seriously complex stuff just by describing what they want. And listen, if you're thinking this is just some little niche corner of the tech world, think again. By late 2025, Cursor, and that's just one of these tools, was valued at a staggering $29.3 billion. Let that sink in. This isn't just a trend, it's an absolute economic tidal wave. Okay, so now let's talk about where all this new power is really being put to the test. We're talking about one of the most exciting, high-stakes arenas in all of tech, a place where code is law and security is everything. We're diving into the world of blockchain and Web3. Let's be real, Web3 development has always been notoriously hard, right? Like a super high barrier to entry. But vibe coding is changing the game completely. Suddenly, an enthusiast, someone with a great idea but maybe not years of Solidity experience, can build a dApp or a DAO or even deploy a smart contract just by describing what they want to do. You're learning by doing, by creating, not by reading textbooks. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive problem. All this speed and all this ease slams right into a wall called the Web3 privacy gap. See, most blockchains are completely public. So if you have an AI agent that's handling, say, your secret sauce logic or sensitive user data, putting it on a public chain is literally like having it think out loud in the middle of Grand Central Station. It's a non-starter, a fatal flaw. So with all this promise comes some serious peril. When it's this easy to create, it's also easy to make dangerous mistakes. So let's dig into the risks and how the industry is trying to navigate them. And these dangers are not theoretical. They are very, very real. Just look at the Moonwell Protocol breach in 2026. They lost $1.78 million. And you know what the cause was? A critical error traced directly back to a bad suggestion from a coding AI. That's the thing about Web3. When code is law and real money is on the line, there are no do-overs. Mistakes can be catastrophic and irreversible. And the data backs us up completely. Studies are showing that, yeah, AI is great at spitting out code that functions. But get this, almost half of it, 45%, has classic security flaws baked right in. The sources we looked at call this the running with scissors problem, and it's a perfect description. You're moving at lightning speed, but you're also being incredibly reckless. Okay, so this brings us to a really, really important distinction. On one hand, you've got the novice vibe coder. This is the person who's so focused on speed, they just blindly accept whatever the AI gives them. But on the other hand, you have the professional agentic engineer. This person sees the AI as an incredibly powerful tool, but one that they orchestrate and direct. They focus on solid, secure architecture first, and they live by the mantra, don't just trust, you have to trust but verify.
So, the big question is, how do we fix this? How do we solve the privacy gap and the security problem? Well, this is where privacy-preserving infrastructure comes into play. You have networks like Oasis that are built from the ground up to solve this exact problem, to take that creative, high-level vibe and ground it in a secure, private, and verifiable reality. Let's look at how the Oasis toolkit tackles these challenges head-on. First up, you've got Sapphire. This lets you create confidential smart contracts just by using simple prompts, which is huge. It means your data and your logic stay private even on the blockchain. Then there's a tool for verifiable compute that lets your AI run complex jobs off-chain, so your secret sauce stays secret. And finally, there's a tool that's like a real-time fact-checker for the AI, constantly feeding it the right documentation so it doesn't hallucinate and invent flawed code. Okay, so with these foundational pieces for security and privacy starting to lock into place, we can finally start looking ahead to the truly mind-bending future this technology is building. So, the next big frontier, it's something called non-human identities, or NHIs. Just think about this for a second. AI agents are going to be operating on their own, autonomously, on the blockchain. They're going to need their own on-chain identities to own assets, to hold secrets, and to execute tasks without a human pulling the strings. In this world, a privacy network like Oasis basically provides the secure, on-chain body for the AI's mind to inhabit. And that unlocks the door to truly autonomous private organizations. And all of this brings us to one final, really provocative question. As AI becomes the coder, as we hand over the grunt work of writing syntax, what happens to the human creator? What's our job? Well, it seems the future isn't about replacing us. It's about elevating us. We're no longer just writers of syntax. We become the directors of intent, the architects of ideas, and, of course, the ultimate arbiters of the vibe.